Well, hi, and welcome to July. Welcome to the July Aging Well. I hope everyone's doing great. I hope you got to enjoy some of the festivities for the 4th of July. Here in Winston, we had an amazing fireworks show. And rather than beat the traffic and all the crowds over at the stadium, we were able to watch it from our driveway over in West End. So there are benefits to living downtown. You can enjoy a lot of what's going on and be right at home. So I hope you all enjoyed it. I hope you're having a great summer. I know I sure am. Our daughter and our two grandsons came over and spent the 4th plus a few days with us. And it was just perfection. Family is what I certainly live for. And I hope y'all enjoy your families, whether they're born or made. But family is so wonderful. And as always, I have to thank our Aging Well team. I have to thank Courtney Hayes, who is the brains behind everything. She's making this work, and I thank you for it. And Audrey Belfaro, who is our behind the scenes champion. She has been here since the very beginning. So thank you to Courtney and Audrey. I love you both. We would not do this without you. So let's jump right in. We've got a great program tonight. And first of all, we have got a cooking segment that is Chef Dianne McConnell. She is one of the cooking school chefs at Southern Home and Kitchens in Thruway Shopping Center. Now, for some of you who may or may not know, they have moved just down the shopping center. They're actually a door away, I think one door away from Trader Joe's now in a much larger space. And the main thing is they've got a massive cooking school area. So it was wonderful for Dianne to jump in and say, of course, I want to do this. So we are going to take it away and let Dianne share her recipe with you for her Thai curry sauce.
Good morning. Thank you, Deb, for inviting me to be here this morning and doing a little cooking for the Aging Well program. We're here. I'm Dianne McConnell, and I'm here in the brand new spanking kitchen of the Southern Home and Kitchen, which has just relocated to a bigger, more beautiful location in Thruway Shopping Center here in Winston-Salem, just a couple doors down from Trader Joe's, where I shop a lot. So thank you for letting us use the kitchen to do a little cooking this morning. So what I'm going to be making today is a Thai chicken curry. It's very flavorful. It uses some interesting ingredients, and it can be modified to suit your own taste. Let me share with you some of the ingredients for the chicken curry this morning. We have some shallots here, thinly sliced. If you don't have shallots, feel free to use the onions that you have at home. I have a yellow pepper, which I've also thinly sliced. You can use red, yellow, green, whatever color or taste you like. I have some carrots that I've sliced. We also have our chicken, which I've thinly sliced. I like to do it in small pieces. If you want larger bits, that's fine. I've used two boneless chicken breasts here, and they're ready to go. I also have some Asian ingredients or some Thai ingredients that you may not have in the kitchen at home. I'm using the red Thai curry paste. This is very flavorful. It comes in several colors. I like the red because it's not as spicy. If you want more heat in your curry sauce, go for the green, the green curry paste. I have fish sauce, which is very pungent. Don't open it and think that it's gone bad. It's a lot of anchovies. You don't want to smell it. You just want to put some of it in your dish. It's delicious. It works really well with lime. And then we have coconut milk. So what we have over here are some of the flavor enhancers that I'm going to be using in the curry. We have garlic, 2 garlic cloves. We have some fresh ginger. And then I have lemongrass, which may be something that you haven't used in your dishes before, but it's very flavorful. I'll show you how to use it. You can find substitutes. So we have the lemongrass. It's very coarse and textured. So you want to take off the outer leaves that are really tough and fibrous. So we just kind of skin those away. And then you have a much more tender inner stalks. But I'm going to take this stalk of lemongrass. I'm going to cut it down a bit to where it's a little bit more tender, but you will see if you work with it that it's very fibrous. So I'm going to cut the end off a little bit more and get to this softer part. And I'm going to just chop this up. So you're going to have this lemongrass that you've got here. I've already started chopping some fresh cilantro. I'm going to work with my garlic here. You want to smash that clove, whoops, with the backside of, you can use pre-chopped garlic from your grocery store if you don't want to mess with garlic, but this is pretty easy. We're going to mince all of this together in a minute, but I also wanted to show you the fresh ginger if you have not worked with that before. So this is a piece of your fresh ginger root. It has a skin, it has a peel on it. I usually look for the pieces that don't have too many little knobby things sticking out on it because it's much easier to peel. So I'm going to get this a little straight if I can. And the easiest way to peel your ginger, I find, is to take a spoon and just scrape that skin right off of the ginger. So once you get your ginger peeled and you've got your garlic cloves smashed, we're going to just make a nice little mix. You want to get it kind of fine because they are, they're potent flavors, so you don't want to get a big old chunk of any of these in your forkful of ginger. You can take a pinch of salt. If you take a pinch of salt and sprinkle it over those ingredients, it'll help make it into almost like a little paste. But if you can't find fresh lemongrass and you don't want to grow it, you can buy substitutes. You can get it in jars that's already been mashed up. You can get it in tubes. So there are other ways of finding your lemongrass. So you can see I've got this minced up pretty fine in here. So we've got our ingredients ready to go. And then the cooking part's going to go fairly quickly. Okay, we've got a pot here for our curry that we're going to use. I'm going to turn the heat up on this a bit. I want to sear this chicken first. I'm not going to cook it all the way through. I'm just going to try to get a little sear on the exterior of it. The sear will give it a little bit different texture and it'll give it a little bit more flavor. So we're going to start with that, and then I'm just going to use olive oil. Olive oil, this is the olive oil that's actually sold at Southern Home and Kitchen. You buy a bottle and it's really good. Everybody who tastes it here in the cooking class really likes the oil. You buy a bottle and then you bring it back and get it refilled. So you pay a little more for the first one because you're getting your bottle, but then you bring it back in and you get a refill. I'm going to get my pan a little hot here before I put my chicken in, because we want to get that sear. And I'm not going to put all of my chicken in. I'm just going to put part of it. All right, so our chicken's going to go over here. Then we've got a nice hot pot, and we're going to start making our curry sauce. I'm going to start with the peppers. They take a little bit longer. We'll let them get a little bit of color. And we want to keep that fond, that brown glaze that cooked off the chickens. That's your fond, F-O-N-D. That gives you a lot of flavor, so you want to keep that in there. Then we're going to add our carrots, our shallots, and we're just going to saute these for a few minutes till they start softening a bit. I've opened the coconut milk. I'm using full fat coconut milk. You can use light if you prefer. Save a few calories. All right, so we're starting to get a little bit of color and our veggies are starting to soften a little bit. So I'm now going to add my mix of my lemongrass, garlic, and ginger. Garlic is going to burn. These small pieces of these kind of textured, coarse items are going to burn really quickly. So you don't want to add that into the saute until you're almost ready to put some liquid in there. I'm going to use about 2 tablespoons of, maybe 3, of that mix. And then we're going to throw in some fish sauce. And we're going to throw in some Thai curry paste, and we'll give that another stir. And then we add our chicken stock. 1 cup of chicken stock. Let that come to a bit of a simmer. Now we also are going to put a little bit of sweetness in this. So I have 1 tablespoon of brown sugar. You could use a little honey if you like. And we'll let this come to a little bit of a simmer. And we're going to add our 1 can of coconut milk. So you can see how pretty it is with all the colors in it. We're going to let that come to a simmer. We're going to put the top on and let it simmer for maybe 10 minutes to soften up the vegetables a little bit before we return the chicken to the pot. Okay, so we're ready to make to cook some rice to go with our curry. In the meantime, our curry sauce has been simmering, and we've got our vegetables that have started to soften. So it's time to return the chicken to the pot so that it can complete cooking. So I've got my seared chicken pieces, and you want to keep that liquid in there too because it's got a lot of flavor. Return all of that to the pot. Stick our lid on. Now I find that a good addition as a side dish for this will be some sauteed spinach. I like to use my wok for my spinach because it has all of this nice area in here that you can use, and it's a thin construction so it gets really hot, so it's going to saute your spinach really quickly. But if you don't have a wok at home, just use any kind of wide flat skillet that you've got. I like to get my wok good and hot before I start sauteing my spinach, and I'm just going to use a little bit of olive oil in here and a little bit of salt and pepper at the end. And what I like to do when I'm cooking my spinach is just drizzle a little oil in the bottom, and then I like to start with part of my spinach. It's still sizzling just a little bit in the bottom of the pan. It's going to start wilting on you a little bit, and then as it wilts a bit, I'll put another handful in there. I usually take it off the heat before it gets completely wilted because the leftover heat in the pan is going to help wilt those last bits. And this is pretty almost all wilted, so I'm going to turn the heat off. You can put it in your sauce at the end if everybody likes cilantro, or you can just use it as a garnish at the end, which makes it look very pretty. I'm going to use a little lime juice at the end in the curry. It's very flavorful. It gives it a little extra punch. I'm going to zest that right into the pot with the lime juice, and then we are going to throw in some scallions as well. So I like to use the green and the white parts of the scallion. Okay, so our spinach is wilted, our rice is steaming, the chicken and the veggies, the chicken is cooked in the curry sauce, and the veggies are soft. You can see the consistency of this sauce. It's a little bit thin. You may like it that way. You may want to serve your curry in a bowl with some rice on the bottom, put your chicken curry on that, spinach on the side of that. It looks very pretty. But if you want a little bit of a thicker sauce, so you're serving it on a plate has a little more body. I've got a tablespoon of cornstarch in here, and I'm going to make a slurry. You could use warm water, but I'm just going to take some of the sauce in here and make a slurry of cornstarch and our curry sauce. And that's going to help give this sauce a little bit more body. You could use flour, but cornstarch is really, really easy to work into these sauces and give them a little bit of body. If you are not into chicken curry, you could use tofu. You could sear your tofu and then add your vegetables, do it the same way. You could make your sauce, get this all prepared, add some shrimp at the end so you have a little seafood. If you did that, and if you have fish stock, you could use that to replace the chicken stock so you get a more of a seafood flavor to it. So there are lots of different variations you can make on this. You could make a simple vegetable curry without the tofu or any of those added proteins and put some other vegetables in it, like sweet potatoes, bigger chunks of carrots. So it's a very versatile sauce. I'm probably not going to zest the entire lime in here because I'm going to add a little juice as well, but I'm going to add a little lime zest in here. And when you're zesting your citrus, make sure that you're just getting that outer colored layer of the peel. You don't want to grind down into that middle layer. It's still thick and coarse, but it's the pith and it's bitter. So it's not citrus bitter, it's just bitter. So you want to get the outside layer of that zest. So you don't want to go too deeply down in there. And then I'm going to cut my lime in half, and we're going to add a little bit of lime juice. Okay, this is a great juicer. It's counterintuitive. Once you've sliced your citrus in half, you place it down inside the cup, and then you press down on the outside of the lime. All right, so our curry's ready. Our rice, everything's ready to serve here. We want to stir the lime juice in. I love this sauce. Add some spinach to our plate. We have a nice garnish of some fresh cilantro, some scallions. So we have a nice, healthy, fresh chicken curry with sauteed spinach. It's healthy, flavorful, fairly quick and easy. You can freeze it, you can modify it to your taste, make it spicier, use different vegetables, different proteins, and it's just a real winner for me. Hope you enjoy it.
It was so fun. I love these cooking segments because, I'm just inhaling all these amazing, amazing fragrances and aromas from these different dishes. But that was a good one. And so, with the heat that's going on, it just perfectly, perfectly coincided with this year's International Black Theater Festival. If y'all have never been to this festival, you are missing out on one of the most fun evenings you will ever spend, or multiple nights of this, because it goes on for several days. But here to tell us about it is Jackie Alexander. He is the producing artistic director for the NC Black Rep Company, Black Repertory Theater Company, and he is the producer of the International Black Theater Festival. So here to tell us everything we need to know is Jackie.
Thanks for having me, Deb. My name is Jackie Alexander. I'm the executive producer of the International Black Theater Festival, which is produced by the North Carolina Black Repertory Company. This will be our 37th anniversary. The festival was founded by Larry Leon Hamlin in 1989. Mr. Hamlin also started the North Carolina Black Repertory Company in 1979, 10 years earlier. It was the first black professional theater company in North Carolina. And his nickname is Mr. Marv-tastic. And it really captures who he was because he brought the entire world of black theater. And really today he brings the entire world of theater to Winston-Salem. The International Black Theater Festival is the biggest event of its kind on the globe. So how he managed to get Oprah Winfrey and Lou Gossett Jr. and Sidney Poitier, Harry Belafonte, all of those people have been here to Winston-Salem. All of them look at Winston-Salem as Black Theater holy ground. And that's why I love when I talk to people in the community, I want them to realize how special Winston-Salem is, like what you guys have created. I'm not a Winston-Salem native, so I'm one of the people who looks in appreciation for what you did, what you created here, what Mr. Hamlin created. He passed in 2007, and his wife, Sylvia Sprinkle Hamlin, picked up the mantle and just grew the festival. She sustained it for the next, 2007, almost 15 years. She actually passed in 2022. But what they did, what they created, the entire world of theater is grateful. A book was published on the festival by Theater Communications Group in 2022. We commissioned a play on Dr. Maya Angelou, who was the first chairperson of the National Black Theater Festival in 1989. The play is called Phenomenal Woman, Maya Angelou. We commissioned that show here. That show's been picked up for Broadway and has Debbie Allen attached as director now. And like I said, we've got the film premiering at this year's festival. So it's really growing and it's getting bigger and better. And we want you to be a part of it. And it's possibly going to be the biggest festival we've ever had. What you do not want to miss is after 7 years, we've completed a documentary which tells the history of the festival. The festival started in 1989, and it belongs to Winston-Salem. Everyone in Winston-Salem, and I think everybody in the town is featured in this film. So if you don't know anything about the International Black Theater Festival, July 28th through August 1st at Haynesbrand Theater, Holy Ground, the legacy of the National Black Theater Festival, will be screening. You can go to our website at ncblackrep.org for ticket information. You do not want to miss that. That'll tell you everything about the festival. And once you've had a chance to see the movie, then you get to the plays. And that's the real showpiece. We're going to have about 25 productions this year, over 100 performances over 5 days. NC Black Rep is actually producing 4 shows: Pearly Victorious by Ozzie Davis, August Wilson Fences, Blooming in Dry Season, which won the 2024 Sylvia Sprinkle Hamlin Rolling World Premiere Award and just had a critically acclaimed run off Broadway in New York at Woody King Jr.'s New Federal Theater, and one of my plays, The Legend of Buster Neal. Again, ncblackrep.org will have all ticket information. We've got a ton of festival favorites coming back. Chester Gregory, who made a name for himself here at the festival and has gone on to big things. He always comes back. He's always a crowd favorite. You don't want to miss his show. Felicia Rashad will be performing with the Gateway Chambers Players. They're going to be doing Wynton Marsalis's A Fiddler's Tale, so that's a really hot ticket. West Coast Black Theater Troupe, another festival favorite. They're going to be bringing Marvin Gaye. You don't want to miss that. Ebony Rep has Luther Vandross. There's really something, if you like period pieces, the Roby Theater is bringing The Great Lover, a 1700 comedy, a comedy that takes place in 1736, which is hilarious. So I say all that to let you know, whatever you like, whatever type of play you like, we have it for you.
When I got here, I wasn't expecting so much love, so much community, so much fellowship, to have encounters with so many incredible legends that I've admired and respected for so many years, who were so incredibly approachable.
The International Black Theater Festival is here to serve international black theater makers.
When you leave here, it's like you feel different, like a different person.
This is a cornucopia of grand, wonderful African-American production.
The greatest collection of African diaspora theater in the world in one place.
Like visiting a foreign country.
It's pure excitement, pure joy, pure excellence.
It's just like, okay, just get ready to just stay awake, and you can go sleep when you get home, or you can sleep when you're dead, because for this week, you are just going to be inhaling Blackness and Black culture and arts. Oh, and don't forget about the vendors and the shopping.
Extraordinary. This is holy ground and the spirit is here. You will be moved, you will be inspired, you will be happy, you will be joyful, you may cry, you may laugh. You're going to run the gamut of emotions and experiences at this festival.
Our art comes from our roots, from our history, all the survival from slavery. We bring that to everything we do. And other cultures can try to replicate it, but they will never be able to really, really do it. And a lot of times we don't get credit for what we create. Being in an atmosphere like this is validating because you don't have to explain. There's a shorthand there. And the excellence is seen and identified and validated and awarded immediately. Nobody's trying to rob anybody of anything. It's just like, yes, I see you, I know where that comes from, and good for you for having the courage to pull that, to bring that to the surface and share it. That's what I mean by validating.
You've been missing out. All of you Black theater makers who are out here doing things all over the country, all over the world, all over the globe in Black theater, you are missing out on the one place where you can come together unapologetically being yourself and watch talent from teenagers up through our golden age creators who are legends, who are all here in one place together, and you get to have fun.
I think it's the kind of festival where you'll find art that both touches you and makes you howl with laughter. There's no showcase like this.
Come and have your life changed. This festival will change your life.
Welcome to the 2024 International Black Theater Festival.
Again, ncblackrep.org will have the full listing of our shows. There are also films, workshops, play readings. There's something to do Tuesday through Saturday from 8 in the morning till 2 at night. So depending on if you're a night owl or a morning person, we've got you covered. I'm going to say that website one more time, ncblackrep.org. You can download the brochure that has all of the events, timetables, where everything takes place. And I hope you will join us for the 2026 International Black Theater Festival.
It is a blast. And I will tell you that Donna and I will be there. So it is not just for African American audiences. Black theater is for everybody. So I really would encourage you to go to that website, check it out. There are amazing things. Let's see if y'all can read it on there. And please check the original notice that I sent you because it's got the link on there as well. And I want to say one thing to y'all who are such loyal, wonderful viewers of this program. We have had to change how this video is being saved and archived and loaded onto the Atrium website. It used to be a very simple process. Now it's a little more, let's just say it, cumbersome. A little more involved is probably a more politically correct way to say it. So you may not be getting the link to this entire program as quickly as you have in the past. So that's why I want to make sure you have that link so that you don't miss any opportunities to attend the International Black Theater Festival. So anyway, having said all of that, I am delighted to introduce our educational speaker tonight, Dr. Lindsay LeSavage. She is a podiatrist with Atrium Health, Wake Forest Baptist. And y'all may remember that maybe about 3 years ago, we had a different podiatrist, another podiatrist, talk to us on foot care and shoes and all of that. And I walked away from that presentation with so much new knowledge that I had to go back. I said, we want more. So I'm just delighted that Dr. LeSavage is able to share with us tonight. So I'm going to turn the camera over to her, and I know you're going to learn as much tonight as I did last time, and I'm looking forward to learning more tonight. So thank you.
Thanks so much, Deb. I'm so excited to talk to y'all today. Let me share my PowerPoint here. Okay, so here we go. My presentation, I named it Aging Well Starts from the Ground Up, and I hope to give you some good tips for foot health and mobility. So, just a little outline of some of the things I wanted to discuss tonight. First, why does foot health matter? Second, what are some of the common foot conditions that we see in the aging population especially? Then, how can we choose supportive shoes? What are we looking for there? I'm going to go over a few mobility and stretching exercises that I think are really helpful for everyone. And then I'll follow that with some skin and nail care essentials, and then a few tips and tricks to promote healthy circulation in the legs. And then lastly, some warning signs that it might be time to see a podiatrist. So we'll start with, why does foot health matter? Well, foot pain is pretty common and it can have significant impacts on your mobility. There are studies that estimate about a quarter of adults over age 45 report some degree of foot pain. And we know that if we have healthy feet, that can help support an independent lifestyle. And people that focus on foot and ankle strengthening specifically can have better mobility and balance and confidence when walking, especially if you're navigating things like uneven terrain or stairs. So we have a lot of research out there that supports people that do these targeted foot and ankle exercises can improve things like strength and balance and hopefully prevent issues down the line. So we're going to go over some of those specifics a bit later. Also, foot problems can increase fall risk. Kind of a staggering statistic, but more than 1 in 4 adults age 65 or older fall each year. And the CDC recognizes foot pain and poor footwear as modifiable risk factors. So again, just simple, easy things that we can kind of modify to prevent, probably big consequences. Things like pain, muscle weakness, sensory changes, foot deformity, and again, shoe wear, they're all important things that, we can really tune up to prevent bigger problems. And then lastly, we know that foot health impacts your overall quality of life. We want people to be able to exercise and go to social events and just perform activities of daily living without issues. So that is my job, to educate people on these things and hopefully, do a good amount of prevention, especially in this community. So this is a pretty neat study. It was performed by the American Podiatric Medical Association in 2014, and they surveyed 1,000 U.S. adults just about like their general foot health and perception of their foot health. And that population, 77% of them reported experiencing some type of foot problem, with the average being 2.5 foot problems. And they've listed here some of the common complaints, the most common being nail problems, also sweaty feet, foot odor, things like heel pain, plantar fasciitis, pain in the ball of the feet, and then some structural problems like bunions, bone spurs, hammer toes, and then less common but acute problems such as tendonitis, stress fractures, and neuroma. So pretty wide range of things that can happen with the feet that can be problematic. So just wanted to highlight a few of the more common things that we see. We kind of categorize them a bit differently, but certainly a lot of structural problems like a bunion, which is when the knuckle bone here becomes a little bit more prominent. Hammer toes, when the toe sort of starts to cock up, and again, the knuckle on the top of the toe can be prominent or painful. And then arthritis can manifest in a lot of different ways, but it's usually a stiff joint or sometimes a joint with a bone spur that can cause issues. Skin and nail conditions, very common, especially corns and calluses, fungal infections like athlete's foot or fungal toenails, and then just thickened or ingrown toenails, very common as well. And then there are a lot of medical conditions too that can play a role in your foot health. Peripheral neuropathy is when the feet become numb and tingly, so that can affect your sensation and your balance. There's a pretty wide range of diabetic foot disease manifestations, but we commonly see people with like a collapsing foot deformity, hammer toes, and again, some neuropathic qualities. And then peripheral arterial disease is when the blood flow to the feet isn't as healthy as it should be, and that can manifest as pain or issues with skin healing. And then lastly, the functional problems, plantar fasciitis, I'm sure you all have heard of that. That's certainly, I probably see that 10, 15 times a day, but that's like plantar heel pain that can really bother you with the first few steps when you get up in the morning, muscle weakness or atrophy, and then balance impairment. So these are some of the common things that we see and treat. So I want to really get into some of the preventative stuff. So first we'll start with choosing a foot healthy shoe. And I included a little picture of the different components that go into a shoe. So a few parts I really highlight for my patients. The first is you want to make sure the toe box of the shoe is nice and wide and soft. This part here is called the upper, and I usually advise people to look for a mesh or a soft upper. Sometimes shoes will have a firm seam that kind of runs on the inside of the toe, and that can really bother your skin, or especially if you have a bunion, it can rub there. So a mesh or a soft upper is really helpful. Next, I have them look at the midsole here. So this part of the shoe should be relatively stiff and supportive, because if you think about it, this is what's holding up the arch. So if the shoe sort of collapses in this area, it's probably not supporting you very well. And then lastly, we look at the heel counter, which is back here. You want this part of the shoe to also be relatively firm so it can stabilize your heel when you walk. And I included a few other little qualities here. So a non-slip sole is helpful for, preventing falls. A lightweight design, you don't want it to be too heavy, kind of weigh you down. And then shoes that have a removable insole are sometimes nice if you wanted to replace it with a custom orthotic. So just like there are things to look for, there are things to avoid. So as we were discussing before with the midsole, I tell all my patients when they're looking at shoes to pick up your shoe and try to bend it in half. If you can fold it up and wring it out, it's not doing anything for your foot. So you want something that when you try to bend it, it's relatively rigid in the middle here. Okay to have bend in the toes, that's totally fine. But here in the middle, we want a little bit more support. Certainly things like high heels can cause issues with feet over time just because they really bunch up and crowd the toes. If our shoes get too worn out, that can also cause issues with support. And then if we are doing a lot of walking, I try to avoid things like flip-flops or slippers because again, they're not really stabilizing your foot. All of these things are okay, like, here and there, everything in moderation, right? But if you're trying to do a lot of walking, I would certainly avoid these qualities. And then I just always find it so fascinating. There's been a lot of research about shoe sizing and perception, and they estimate that 63 to 70% of people are wearing the wrong size shoe. So that can be for a whole host of reasons, but especially as we age, our foot can change position, and then that can in turn change your shoe size. So it's important to have the correct measurement. So I've included a few of my favorite brands. I'm not sponsored by anyone, no financial relationships with any of these brands, but these are the ones that my patients most commonly wear and that I think are pretty reasonable. So the Hokas are a great, well-cushioned shoes, great for people with arthritis and kind of stiffness in the feet. Brooks also just solid, stable sneaker. They have like really cute colors and patterns too. And then New Balance, I think they do a great job with the width of their shoes. So if you are someone with a wider foot or bunion deformity, this is a pretty good option. And then my personal favorite, Saucony or Saucony, however you want to say it, This is what I wear, but I just think they're very lightweight, but still very well cushioned. They have a ton of different models, but the Echelon and the Guide, I think, are really great walking shoes. And I'm someone who wears custom orthotics, and they accommodate orthotics really well. And then two more brands I want to mention. So OrthoFeet and Vionic, they both have great websites online. Um, OrthoFeet specifically makes extra depth shoes, which are great for people with diabetes because you want a shoe that's not rubbing on things or could, predispose you to an ulcer. So they've got great shoes for people with diabetes and neuropathy. And then Vionic, also a great like orthopedic shoe brand. They have not only athletic and running style shoes, but also some casual shoes, sandals, dress shoes. So especially for women, I usually point them towards Vionic. I think they're great. Another common question I get is, well, what about inserts? And there's certainly a role for inserts for a lot of people. Now, these newer style sneakers, I mean, you can see how supportive they look and how well cushioned they are. So the newer, nicer sneakers a lot of times obviate the need for any, orthotics, but still, for some problems and some deformities, orthotics can be really helpful. There are hundreds, if not thousands, of over-the-counter options. The two that I most commonly use are Power Step and Superfeet. They've got them on Amazon, but they also carry them at local like running shoe stores. So, for example, the Fleet Feet, like down by where the PF Chang's was, they carry this type of insert, and it's great because you can actually try them on there with your sneakers and have a store associate help you with fitting. So I think that's really nice. But overall, there can be a big variety in quality and in price. So that's something to look out for. Now, as a podiatrist, one of the things that we do is we evaluate, your foot type. Again, if any deformities are present. So for some people, like let's say you have a really bad flat foot and it's arthritic, there are some insurances that will cover a prescription custom insole for such deformities. So I always encourage people, come see us and we can evaluate whether you're a candidate for a custom insole or if you'd be fine doing an over-the-counter choice. And then another common question, well, what about barefoot walking? And my kind of take on this is if it hurts, don't do it. So if you're someone like Gabrielle Wall here who set the Guinness record for fastest barefoot 100-meter sprint across a brick of Legos, then that's great. But for most people, it's probably not the case. So I usually encourage wearing a supportive sandal or a house shoe, especially. Try not to, stomp around on the hardwood floors because that can make things a little bit aggravated. But people with certain risk factors like diabetes or neuropathy, you worry about walking barefoot because if you step on something and you don't feel it, that could lead to a big problem. So knowing your risk factors there, and then again, one of the things that I'm passionate about is prevention and strengthening, and I just think that there are safer ways to strengthen our feet than having to go barefoot. So we're going to talk about that next. So one of the great things I think about the new age of the internet is you can Google just about anything and even get like personalized recommendations. So a lot of times I'll have my patients go on and Google like toe yoga program and they can get like a little personalized workout of things to do for the feet. So I've included a couple like more common exercises here. But again, the focus is to strengthen some of these smaller muscles and tendons in the feet, not only just for the strengthening aspect and for balance, but it can also help to prevent toe or foot deformity down the line. So you can even try these if you're sitting down right now, you can try these while we're going through them, but they are a little bit harder than they look. Sometimes they kind of give me a foot cramp if I do them too much. But for example, here, planting your big toes on the ground and trying to lift all of the lesser toes up and doing a couple repetitions of that. It's working your small extensor tendons in the foot. And then similarly here, having all your lesser toes planted on the ground and slowly trying to lift your big toes up and put them back down. And that's working your long extensor to your big toe. And then here, a few more exercises. This one is really good for bunion prevention. You have a big muscle that's on the inside of the foot here that helps to pull your toe this way. So if it gets, kind of weakened or atrophied over time, it can contribute to the toe wanting to drift the other way, which is part of what makes a bunion. So again, with your feet planted on the ground, trying to move your big toes into the midline and holding them there and then putting them back. Or if you're sitting, again, trying to spread all the toes as wide as you can and hold it, and then squeeze them all together. So again, that's just working some of the intrinsic muscles of the foot. Now, these are exercises that I talk to people about for plantar fasciitis, especially. So the plantar fascia band, it's a big, thick ligament, basically. It starts on the heel bone and it runs all the way up to the base of the toes. And most commonly, people get some irritation right where it inserts on the heel bone. And one of the ways we prevent this from happening and also treat it when it's inflamed is we try to loosen it up and stretch it. So things like marble or stone pickups where we're kind of clawing the foot and trying to pick something up and put it back down works that entire band of fascia. Same thing, sitting here and kind of holding the heel and pulling the toes back towards you stretches out this fascial band. And then I love this one too. It's harder than it looks sometimes, but you can take like a towel or even a piece of paper and try to scrunch it up and then put it back down. So for my patients that are like having active plantar fasciitis, I'll have them do like 20 to 50 towel curls a day. And I think that's a really helpful exercise. So a few more exercises here. Now we know from all of our foot and ankle literature that tight calves can be a really big problem when it comes to foot pain, especially with regard to plantar fasciitis and Achilles tendonitis. So the more that we're able to stretch and loosen our calves, the better. Also, people that have pain kind of in the ball of the foot or closer to the forefoot, a lot of times tight calves are implicated in that as well. So one stretch we have here is kind of standing on a step and of course supporting yourself either like on a wall or a railing and just slowly lowering your heel to the ground, and you should feel a stretch all in the back of the leg there. My favorite stretch of absolutely all time is a towel stretch. So taking a towel or a belt, something that's relatively rigid, not like one of those little exercise bands, put it around your foot. You want your knee to be locked out straight, and you just pull and hold. And you should feel a stretch literally all the way down the foot and all the way through the back of the leg. But this is a great one. Again, like first thing in the morning before you even get up, stretching this out can really help to prevent things like plantar fasciitis. And then lastly, standing calf stretch. I love this because you can do it 100 times a day. You find a wall, just put your foot back. Again, knee is locked and you're just stretching out the back here. So all of these I think are just great preventative exercises. So next we have some skin and nail care essentials. As we were discussing before, skin and nail problems are super common. Again, something I see probably 20 times a day. Toenails especially can be really tricky. So I encourage people, try to keep your toenails trimmed. Sounds pretty straightforward, but you'd be surprised how often people let them get just a little too long and they can snag on something and kind of partially come off, or you can get bleeding under the nail. So if they're being trimmed at a good level, that's really helpful. Moisturizing nail folds is great. So taking like some Vaseline or some Aquaphor and just kind of massaging the side of the nail here just keeps it from getting like a hard callus or even an ingrowing nail there. If it is bothering you, I say, try not to dig in the corners. You can inadvertently push more skin and debris and stuff under there, and that can lead to an infection. And then I'll often recommend a nail nipper. They've got them for, reasonable price at Walmart. But sometimes these are a little bit easier to use on like thicker toenails. So if you're someone who is safe cutting their own toenails, this is a good tool to use. But I always encourage people, reach out to your doctor if you're not sure if it's safe for you to cut them. People with arterial disease or diabetes sometimes require a doctor to do it just so they don't get an infection. A few more pearls here. Super important to keep the feet well moisturized, except between the toes. Fungus love warm, dark, wet environments. So in between the toes is just a space that can get a little too wet. You can get a fungal infection or skin can kind of break down there. So you really want to keep between the toes dry, but the rest of the feet relatively moist, especially the heels. These are two of my kind of favorite moisturizers. Amlactin's a great, just standard moisturizer. I use it a lot for diabetic patients. And then urea cream with a little salicylic acid is really better for like thick or callous skin, or if you're someone that has like fissures on your heels, this works really well. And they're both over the counter. Um, Super, super important to check the bottom of the feet and in between the toes. Again, especially with comorbidities like diabetes or neuropathy. Be surprised, things can get in there that we miss. So just really important to look at them. Avoid going barefoot in public spaces, pool decks, locker rooms. Again, carries a risk of fungal infections, viral infections. So you want to be careful there and have like a pool shoe or a shower shoe to wear. And then lastly, cleaning shoes is really important. So, for example, I wear kind of like little rain boots to the OR, and again, fungus like warm, dark, wet places. So I regularly have a can of Lysol by the door and just spray out the inside of the shoes and sneakers, put in the washing machine maybe once a month, but just to keep that environment super clean is very helpful. Now, I'm a sucker for online shopping, so I'm constantly kind of looking around and seeing what's out there. But these are a few products that I feel like I am just always discussing with my patients, and I think that they like and work really well. So this is a gel or silicone toe spacer, and it works really well for both prevention and treatment of bunions. And it just slides over the big toe and has a little buttress here that keeps the second toe away. But it's just great again for kind of training the toe on where it needs to be. Or if you're someone that has a toe that's rubbing against the other toe, they have these devices so they don't rub and they don't irritate your skin. And they're pretty low profile and certainly affordable. So I think that's a great product. Next, we have metatarsal pads. These can be used for a lot of different things. I would say most commonly, especially women, as we age, we lose all the fat right here underneath the foot. Nowhere else. It's just the foot. We just lose all this fat here. And it's cushioning our knuckle bones. So what happens is people start to get some like tenderness and irritation of the knuckle and sometimes even the nerves that run between the toes. So we use these pads to move the pressure point away from that spot. So when you walk, you put all your pressure in this pad and not on these knuckles. But it's just a 1/4 inch thick piece of felt, sticks on the foot. I usually have people do that for a week or two, and then once they get comfortable, try to stick it on their insole, and then it can just live there. But it does a great job, again, of just pressure redistribution. And then pumice stones, great for exfoliation. I usually recommend, take a shower, then the skin is nice and soft, take a pumice stone to it, gently exfoliate, and then put on some cream after. And that's great for callus or thick skin. And then lastly, these little cuttable gel toe sleeves, great again for corns, calluses, hammer toes, anything that might be rubbing or irritating in a shoe, especially on this pinky toe. Again, as we age, this toe likes to curl just because of the pull of the tendon that controls it. So what we can do is put this little pad over top of it so that the knuckle isn't constantly rubbing on stuff. So these are all, like I said, just online on Amazon, or most drugstores carry them, but I think that they're great products. So lastly, just wanted to talk about some tips to promote healthy circulation. Now, when we talk about circulation, there's really two things that we're looking at here. So arterial circulation is blood that's coming down to the foot, bringing oxygen to the tissues here. And then venous circulation is returning the blood back up to the heart. So two kind of different systems, and you can have problems with one and not the other. So it's kind of important to distinguish between them. Regardless, one of the most important things you can do is exercise. You want to be moving your muscles and pumping that blood. So whether you're having a hard time getting blood down or a hard time getting it back up, exercise is what helps to pump the blood either direction. If we're sitting or standing in one spot for too long, things just get kind of stagnant, or we can get swelling around the ankles. So you want to keep moving. If you're someone that has to stand in one place for a long period of time, I again encourage some of those standing calf stretches or heel raises, just things to get the blood pumping. At the end of the day, also very helpful to elevate the feet and just help that venous return back up to the heart. And then one of the most important things for foot health is avoiding tobacco use. We know that smoking can really damage the arteries that, again, have to deliver oxygen to the foot. So if these arteries get clogged off or damaged because of tobacco, you can be at risk of tissue loss, wounds, even amputations. So really important to avoid this. And then lastly, compression therapy can be very helpful, although I often encourage people to discuss with a doctor before picking out what compression is right for you. But again, it just helps to push the blood back up and keep it from pooling, which can, be uncomfortable. So all great things to consider, but exercise is the big one. So hopefully most of you are familiar with the field of podiatry, but if you're not, I just wanted to highlight, this is what we do. This was most of our team at Wake Forest. Some of them have kind of graduated now. But we are all extensively educated in foot and ankle specifically. We do 4 years of podiatric medical school, followed by 3 years of surgical residency, and then some go on and do a 1 year kind of specific surgical fellowship. So we love doing this. I think across the board, everyone is very passionate about prevention. And we are all very well versed in multidisciplinary care. We work closely with physical therapists, orthotists, dietitians, you name it. So if you don't have a podiatrist already, we have so many in the community that are just really awesome. So I'll kind of leave you with this last slide here. When should you see a podiatrist? And I think there are a ton of good indications. Certainly, number one, if there's any pain that's just lingering around or if it's impacting your quality of life, that's what we're here for. Get it checked out. Changes in skin or nails. Sometimes these things can seem kind of minor, but I tell my patients I would rather look at it and say it's nothing than let it go and it turn into something. So again, we're here for that sort of stuff. Wounds, certainly don't want those to go south. So wound care is a big part of our practice. Any numbness, tingling, burning could be indicative of a nerve problem or a circulation problem, so both worth having evaluated. Any swelling or discoloration that persists, again, could be related to circulation or an acute musculoskeletal problem. And then lastly, any sort of structural deformities, bunions, hammer toes, flat feet, high arches. That is what we're here for. We want to keep you moving. So that is kind of it for me. But like I said, I'm a podiatrist practicing in Kernersville and in High Point. I'm also one of the associate professors with the podiatry residency, and this is us in the OR the other day. And every year we do the Greensboro Special Olympics polar plunge, or freezing for a reason, and I dress as a Bigfoot. So if you guys are ever there, that's me. Or you'll find us at the Wake Forest football games. We obviously support them. So yeah, thank you so much for your time, and I'm happy to answer any questions you have.
Well, I thank you. And what I'd like to ask you is something that, and you can stop sharing your screen right now and we can just answer some questions.
Yeah.
What I've always heard is when you're on long flights, you should wear some type of compression socks. Now, is that accurate?
I would say for most people, yes. Yeah, because you're completely still. Again, the venous return, it's hard to be pumping blood back up when it's all pooling down and you have to be still. So for the most part, yes. The only kind of caveat is some people, again, with like arterial disease, you have to be careful with compressing because that can impact the blood going back down. But for the most part, it's helpful.
We have a question. What do you think of SAS brand shoe?
Love. I love those. Yeah. And my patients love them, but I think they're very well made.
Now, why is that? Do they just offer a lot of good arch support?
Yep. Support, depth, all of the things that we discussed before, very accommodative, even for people with like pretty bad deformities, like a collapsed foot. I think that brand does really well.
Okay. You know, there are a lot of ads on TV for these specialty inserts, and you know, they make it sound like they're world changing. And I just think it sounds like maybe instead of rushing to one of those specialty stores, maybe we should see a podiatrist.
I would agree with that. It could save you a lot of money, which is always nice. But yeah, the typical sequence I would say is, it's not unreasonable to try a more affordable over-the-counter option first, and if that works, awesome. But if not, or if you know, hey, like I've got a bad flat foot, for example, that's something that we're here to evaluate. And then if we can prescribe a custom option and get it covered by insurance, that's like best of both worlds.
And you're seeing a professional, not someone who just works at a storefront.
Right.
We have another question. What advice do you have for those who have a high arch?
Yeah, and well, there are a lot of things that can come with that. So, the good thing about having a high arch is you don't have to go crazy with wearing, super supportive insoles or even the shoes, because your arch is already structurally where it's supposed to be. But I usually have patients just try to find a shoe that meets them where they're at. Certainly, if things are too flat, you'll kind of notice the difference there. But with high arches, a lot of times comes the plantar heel pain or the Achilles pain. Typically, people with higher arches have a little bit more of that calf tightness we discussed. So the stretching is really helpful for preventing issues with that.
Okay. Another question. Would a podiatrist be helpful to treat Achilles tendonitis?
100% every day.
I love it. I love
Yes,
the 100% answer.
100%.
Is there something that can be done at home about thick toenails?
Depends. Now there are all sorts of like home remedies, if you will, for mycotic fungal toenails. Um, Sometimes we have people put like Vicks Vapor Rub on them or tea tree oil. I find that Vicks can help to like thin them out if they are kind of thickened with fungal debris. Just tough to say. Some people just develop thick toenails over the course of their life, and that kind of is what it is. There's not really a fungal component with it. But the topical stuff like Vicks or tea tree oil is fine. Soaking them to kind of soften them and then cutting them can be helpful too.
So with normal toenails that maybe aren't thick or have any kind of issue going on, is it better to use clippers or to file?
Both. Both.
Okay.
hmm I think, yeah, both would be great if you could do both.
Are any of the problems mentioned hereditary?
So, yes, a lot of the structural deformities can be hereditary. So, like bunions, hammer toes, certainly the stuff that kind of dictates your foot position, more commonly, yes.
Okay. Well, doctor, you have been amazing. Oh, wait, let's see. We've got some more.
Okay.
Okay. What can you use as a nail strengthener?
Ooh, I don't know that I've ever been asked that. You know, I have some patients that if their nails are getting a little like brittle, if that's what we're talking about, we do have topical lacquers that we prescribe that kind of go over the nail to protect them as they grow. So I would say probably would have to be a prescription lacquer to strengthen them.
Okay. I know that my toenails are very, strong, but my fingernails are very weak.
Okay.
I
Yeah,
don't, I
that
don't
can happen.
know. Okay. Another question. What is the best thing for toe fungus?
Oh, loaded question. It's really what is the best thing for you for fungus? There are kind of three pathways that we have for fungus. And again, without seeing the foot or knowing how bad it is, but I just say like generally, if let's say the toes are kind of thickened, crumbled, discolored, um, option one is you can always do nothing and trim them and file them and soak them and just it is more of a cosmetic problem than anything. Um, we have topical medications that are great because they're safe, like they have a very low side effect profile. The downside with that, though, is they're labor intensive. You have to paint them on every day for months on end, and the efficacy is a little bit lower, sometimes like 30-40%. And then lastly, we have a pill. Terbinafine is what's most commonly used, and that has a much higher efficacy, but it is a pill, so it can carry risks of side effects. So you have to make sure, for example, you have like a functioning liver if you were to take the medication.
Okay. A friend had surgery for drop foot. Any ongoing things to do to alleviate any discomfort?
Loaded question also. Kind of depends on the surgery. We do drop foot surgery in a bunch of different ways. Some are kind of more flexible procedures. Sometimes we fuse things together. So, depending on what was done, I would say making sure shoes are like relatively supportive. Sometimes bracing is helpful afterwards, or even a custom orthotic.
And I think the last question that I see right now is there a supplement that will help?
Just in general.
Well, I'm trying to see that may be related. It's the same person that asked about the nail strengthener. So to strengthen nails, just
Okay. Yeah, and I don't I wouldn't say there's like one best one, but certainly like making sure you're getting enough collagen is helpful for skin and nail and hair. But that can, be addressed in multiple different ways. Otherwise, I wouldn't say that there's one that's the best or for the nail, but collagen I think generally is helpful.
okay. Well, again, thank you.
Yeah.
As always, I just want our audience to realize how lucky we are to have these resources at Wake
Yeah.
that are just literally right around the corner from us who are happy and willing that they share this information with us on a regular basis. So
Totally.
thank you, thank you, thank you. And we will see you on August 11th. So don't make any other plans for that night because we're going to have us some fun. Anyway, we'll see you and keep cool.